Go ahead.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
I don't know. I think we are streaming. I don't know why it always seems like we're not, but we are.
Yeah, I think it probably goes live before we see it, but it's almost there.
I see it. I see
There
it.
it is.
And
We are good.
hi,
Hello, my friend.
What's up, dude? You want to talk about how we live NLP?
Oh, let's do it. We got to keep this one short.
Yes.
So we can just jump in. This is the Living NLP show. I'm Nicholas Rave.
I'm Morgan Lane Bennett. And we are here to pump you up. So dating
your
myself.
NLP-ness
Dating
up.
myself. I'm already dating myself.
So what do we do here in the show? We talk about how we live in NLP by sharing a story, each one of us, and then sharing a quote. And you went first last time, I think, right?
I don't know.
You don't remember? I think you did, because I think I went before and I told you to go first. So I'll do it. What's my story today? Well, I'm going to talk about a theme that has been showing up with my clients. And there is a very small voice that is concerned that this is what I talked about last week and I can't remember. So if it sounds familiar to you, tell me and I'll switch to a second story. So I've been talking to a lot of people about the day-to-day, moment-to-moment work of personal development. Like when people say things like, you got to do the work, what does that actually mean? And I've boiled it down to one sort of fundamental practice that I think is the thing that I encourage people to do. That's like, this is the tortoise wins the race practice. This is the one that if you train yourself to do it, you will basically work through everything you've got to work through eventually. You might need some outside help to process on some of it, but this is what I consider the work. And it boils down to emotional self-awareness is what I would call it. So I've been talking to a lot of people about monitoring your triggers. And this idea that I should make this specific. Who was I talking to? So I was working with a client who is a business owner, leader, has people that he mentors and leads underneath. And he has some anger issues, let's call them, some like triggers that he would not even, I think, have classified as triggers before we started working together. But there are certain things that when they happen, he will fly off the handle, I guess is a phrase. And they relate a lot to being disrespected. Dude, people being late.
I have a client just like everything you've said so far. I'm like, oh,
yep. Well, he's not the only one I've ever run into like this either.
Right.
So people being late, people like being distracted, looking at their phone, changing agreements. And I mean, listen, I'm not saying these things aren't annoying, but you know, getting to the point where you reach over and grab the other person's phone and throw it is maybe a bridge too far, right? Like, I think maybe you might be triggered. So what I've been having him do is based on the idea that when we get that triggered, it's never about what's going on in the moment. It's about unresolved wounds that are getting, like, they're resonating with what's happening. It's like you hit a tuning fork and hold it next to another tuning fork and they both start to vibrate. So something happens in your life that resonates with an unresolved wound inside of you. And what we do that perpetuates the cycle is we run away from the feelings that we don't want to feel. And how do we do that? We do it by disassociating. We do it by telling a story, by going into the words, into the images. Externalizing it is the most disassociated you can get. Why am I angry? Because that asshole over there, that's why I'm angry. That's pushing it out of you as far as you can. But even if you just start ruminating on it and saying stuff in your head, you're still running away from the thing you don't want to do the most, which is feel the feelings. And when we talk about going in the opposite direction, having emotional self-awareness, being able to say, I am angry is better than that person over there is a fucking asshole and the anger has like taken over and is driving the bus.
Right.
Saying I'm angry is a step towards owning it, but it's actually still a level of abstraction away, because what the fuck does that word mean from an NLP perspective? Anger is just a word we use to describe sensations. So all this to say, the way that I'm boiling this down for people of what is the work is training yourself to notice your triggers and then bring your attention to the sensations in your body. What does that feel like? And this boils down to questions like, where is it? What is it doing? What shape is it? Where is it moving? What does it feel like? Words like hot, cold, pressure, heavy, light, tingling, electric. Even I would even go with things like nauseous, maybe like sick, like I feel sick or I feel tight. Those are words that are descriptive. But what doesn't work is, well, I'm really angry, or stories about the other person. So I've been doing this for a couple of weeks with people and talking to them about, what do you do in between the sessions with me? What's your practice supposed to be with these things? And the idea is, every time you get triggered, there is something under the surface that is a treasure chest, that if you can take the time to dig that treasure chest out, there is a treasure inside, and that treasure is the trauma. Because when you find it and you open that, now you're free from that trigger. You now become more flexible, less reactive, and more able to respond. One final point. The secret to why this works, I think, is number one, it's a pattern interrupt. So bringing your attention back to the sensations themselves interrupts the cycle of what people normally do. But the other part of it is paying attention to something. And I talk a lot about getting curious about what do your triggers feel like, is a kind of embracing instead of resisting. Just paying attention to something is like it's inherently non-judgmental, or less judgmental at least, than, oh, I'm angry and I shouldn't be angry, or the battle that we get into in these triggers. Whereas just paying attention to it is a kind of compassionate, it actually heals the trauma a little bit at a time. So that's been the theme. I think I've talked to about 4 people in the last couple of weeks about this, and I have like half of my clients, or almost half of my clients, doing this as their daily practice. Like, notice a trigger, bring your attention to the sensations, and notice your tendency to go off into words, but bring yourself back.
Yeah, I have similar sorts of stuff. I just asked the client, same thing. Oh, I mean, he so wants to be at cause because then nothing's his fault. And then, I would be doing great if it wasn't for all these people who just don't get it. And, I'm like, okay, so this thing happens, you feel a certain way. And what are you doing about it? Like, what are you physically, internally doing about it for yourself? You know how to do stuff. We've had results. Like, okay, cool. These things are going to happen. What do you do about it in that time of the thing? What do you do about it? So again, it's like, I say embrace to release. This kind of thing you just said is like,
yes.
Like, well, what is it? Is it obviously about the old thing that we've worked on, that we're working on, so you have the chance now to do something about it. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but it just has to be you taking a moment and going, I don't like this feeling. What am I going to do about it? As opposed to, I don't like this feeling, and now I'm caught in a whirlwind of fucking things that aren't my fault, and I'm just mad, and now and it's all this and that, and I can't even think about the trauma because I'm just so like, and every little thing. And I said to him, I said, when all you are is a nail, everything feels like a hammer.
Oh, that's a good one. Do you have a Twitter? Like that should be on your Twitter.
No, but yes.
That's a good one.
So, and he's
when
like,
all you are is a nail, everything feels like a hammer. Oh, I love it.
So
embrace to release too, by the way, very succinct, very clear.
It's like, and that's what goes with parts integration as well as your problem, which is your form anyways, is to basically say, look, okay, cool, it's a thing. Let's deal with it. But if you're going to go off and do whatever, or go yell at somebody, or go drink, or go eat, or go to the country club, or just avoid your fucking problem and just go away, but then call me and then complain about shit, I'm like, no. Okay, hang on. But like, remember all those tools you have? Like, now's the time. That's a perfect opportunity. So it really was a matter of, once you start to teach them and give them results and say, okay, cool. But now you know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
So now it's up to you to deal with that, because you're a big boy now, or a big girl now. Right.
Yeah. I think one of the things I've been enjoying about this emphasis that I've been taking is the idea that awareness is a reframe, that like when you give them tools, sometimes what do you need to do about it?
Is
often externalizes, and they need to embrace first.
Yeah. They need space to embrace, because it's like, so much of it is like, oh, I just needed to get that old emotional freak out gone so I could see that's what that is. And now I have a little time to think about what I want to do about it. As opposed to just, it's like, you're like, whoa, you just pull back and like, oh, okay. Now I can make a decision about that because I'm here, it's there, and now I have the ability to do something in time.
Yeah. All
right, cool, man.
Cool. So that's been the theme.
I love
Awareness is a reframe. Basically.
Yeah, I love that. So I had a session yesterday with a wonderful person who, she had been having difficulty feeling comfortable in new places, but she's got a great life. Everything's dialed in, but she would have trouble feeling comfortable in a new environment. Like, even if it's just at a new place, at a new friend's house, at a new thing, because she says, I see everything, and I see everything in Technicolor, and I see all the things. When I'm at home, I see all the things. I know them all, and they're all, I can see everything. But, but when I go to a new place, I don't feel comfortable because I can't see everything, and I need to know everything that's around. And usually we teach Hakalau as the solution to the problem.
Peripheral vision.
Right. Peripheral vision, where typically your unconscious mind lives more in your peripheral vision.
Right.
And your foveal vision, you're just like, your spotlight is your conscious mind.
Yeah.
And usually we teach peripheral vision as the sort of the way to soothe a conscious mind that's too freaked out and looking at everything. You can't just like, whoa, take in the bigger picture, man, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And this person's problem was they were too peripheral.
Right.
Consciously.
Yeah.
And it was odd when I said, well, what if, so I gave her the frame of, when you're walking down the street or in a park and you're just enjoying your day, and you see a soccer ball come out of the corner of your eye, your hand goes up without you having to think about it. That's completely unconscious, which is why the unconscious lives in your peripheral vision. And you can just do a lot of good work here like that. And she's like, yeah. And I go, and you can trust your unconscious mind to do that, can't you? Yeah. And you can trust your unconscious mind to just take in all that information and not have to really worry about it. And tell you what's good and what's bad. It'll tell you there's a soccer ball, or maybe there's something, or so you'll know. Well, there's a shiny thing. What's that? But you don't have to necessarily know all the bits of information that are coming in here, and then miss the details of someone's eyes, what they're saying, an interesting piece of art or furniture or whatever it is. And so there was the first time I ever had someone go into foveal vision to soothe the problem, and just then to go, what if you could trust your unconscious mind, which already does such a great job out here. You know it does. Yeah, I do. Yeah. You know it's going to protect you. Yeah, I do. So what if you just let it do its thing, and didn't have to know everything all the time, and you could just focus in, and then you could have, like it's a field of vision. It's like the aperture on a camera. You can focus in on something, but you lose the background, right? But if you focus on everything, you don't know what you're actually seeing or where it is. Yeah. And kind of like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which of course bastardized quantum physics, but you can either know where something is exactly, or like how fast it's moving and what its momentum is, but you can't ever know both exactly. So there's always this continuum, and she had one side of the continuum dialed in really strong, but the other one she wasn't comfortable with trusting the other aspects of that kind of perception. Yeah. Once she got that, once I helped her go into foveal vision and then not pay attention to the peripheral as much consciously, she was, oh, I can do both, and I can trust this, and I can also see this. And it was a way to have, like, I can do the granular, I can do the big picture, I can zoom in and out in between, but I don't have to be up here only knowing everything about everything, but really not knowing anything about anything. But only unless I'm safe in a place that I know, and then I can kind of remember where things are in the bigger picture. Kind of like a bird that's really up high and it's bird's eye vision, it sees everything, but even with the awesome vision, it's not really seeing details of the petals of the flowers and all that stuff. But you can also go into the petals and flower, but you're going to have to. I was hesitant to say sacrifice. I said you're going to have to forego some information for some other information. Right. And you can trust that there's a middle ground that you can find in there. And it was interesting that the first time I was like, this is funny. I'm going to do this backwards. Usually people are, they need to know that they can have something out here. But she's so good. And she's like, oh yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, I get it. And then with a nice little bit of symbolic language to help her metaphorize that, it was great. But
it's a really good example of understanding a process or a technique or principle of psychology or NLP that you understand it enough to know how to break it and use it a different way. That it isn't like, oh, Hakalau or whatever, peripheral vision is this. And a lot of people are very stuck rigidly with this is how you use this. But when you go, no, I understand what it does.
Right.
So
once you get to the principles of it, you can like, oh, what if I put this over here? And
it makes me think that this podcast, a lot of what this is kind of like the what if podcast. Like this is the what if section of the NLP is like, so with peripheral vision, well, what if somebody's too peripheral? And I was going to mention another interpretation of this, because when you think about going into your peripheral vision, the idea there is to put your conscious attention into your peripheral. Right. But what I think she wanted to do was, and this is impossible, but what she wanted to do was make her foveal vision bigger. She wanted to be conscious of everything. Right. And you just kind of drew her attention to that is never happening. Even when you're at home and you feel comfortable and safe, you're still only focused on this. It's just that you're trusting all of this is being handled.
Right. So it's trusting in that this can be handled. And then really, because the problem was not being able to zero in on something and really focus and really get into something, because she was concerned that she would lose information here that might not, either I need to know it, or probably because I wouldn't be safe if I didn't, kind of a thing. But she was able to just kind of, I can pull in and out. I got this going on. Now I'm just going to go practice this and trust my unconscious mind, which is a lovely thing to do.
If there's something important that I need to know and I'm not paying attention to it, my unconscious will let me know.
Right. That's always such a great frame, is that the hand like,
totally.
You don't have to think, oh, there's something coming at me and it looks like it's coming towards my face. I better raise my elbow and then bring my hand up and engage the muscles of the back of my hand so as to, it's like, bing.
Yeah.
That's some magical shit right there.
It's a very universal story too, because it's something, even if someone's never had that happen, everyone knows what that means. And it's a perfect encapsulation of the idea that you're not in control, that your unconscious is running things
out for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you got for a quote there, Brad?
So I am going to sing the praises of someone who I don't know if we've quoted on here before. Are you familiar with Brene Brown much?
Somewhat. My ex was big on her, and it was great because I was like, oh, she's getting you to understand some of the things that I could not, which is great. I mean, like similar viewpoints of empowerment and all that stuff, and vulnerability, and I know it's kind of her jam. So I don't really follow her too much, but I know she says a lot of good things.
Yeah, she is definitely near the top of my list of just people who every time I hear them say something, they make a point in a way that maybe I've heard other people make this point, but I think it's something about her unique personality that she is very scientifically minded. And she's sort of being like a statistics and numbers nerd. She sort of found the back door into the significance of vulnerability, compassion, shame, these kinds of very sensitive, very emotional, very right brain kind of stuff. She found her way there through a very left brain research path. And I think that might be why I find her perspective on this stuff so distinct and valuable. Anyway, absolutely love Brene Brown. I've read a couple of her books and she's the shit. So I found this quote, and this is kind of another way of saying something I have talked about a lot, but I like the way she put it. She said, if you put shame in a petri dish, it needs 3 things to grow exponentially: secrecy, silence, and judgment. If you put the same amount of shame in a petri dish and you douse it with empathy, it can't survive. And I didn't even notice until I just said it out loud that this is related to the anecdote that I shared as well, that this idea that paying attention to something like wounds, trauma, and shame in particular, they're like mold. They grow in the dark, and the secrecy and silence and judgment. It's like alcoholism, probably one of the most important steps in the 12 steps. And you could lose a lot of those 12 steps. But one of the most important ones is talking about stuff, just getting the addiction. There are basically no addictions that
survive. First one is you have to admit you're powerless. It's like, sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Write a letter to your friends and say you're sorry. Okay, that's good.
Shit, I just remembered. There's a 4-step model for addiction recovery that I was introduced to, that is like an organization that's an alternative to AA, and it's awesome. Like everything in it, when I was reading their material, I'm like, oh my God, this is exact. And the craziest thing about AA, man, it is one of the only, first of all, completely scientifically invalidated methodologies that can be court ordered.
And something, but here's the thing. The only other thing that has a 95% recidivism rate is the fucking prison system. So that tells you what's court ordered. They're like, let's. But
anyway, that was distracting. The point was addiction thrives in secrecy too.
Right. Yeah, unless you got friends who party, but I don't know if I'm just being pedantic asshole. Secrecy and silence. I don't know what. I feel like those can be collapsed.
Sure. I could see that too. Secrecy and silence. I think there might be. I think the distinction she might be making is that not talking about someone is a way that some people can say, or something is a way that some people can say, well, it's not a secret. I'm not lying about it. I'm just not talking about it. And I think that might be a distinction worth making. But
sure.
It also just might be she wanted three things because
exactly. Two S's and
yeah.
Okay, cool. So this comes from the clean language stuff I've been doing, which it's good, but Igor is just such a much better teacher in the way he's brought everything into symbolic language as opposed to clean language. And I get clean language. I mean, I don't get it because I'm still getting it, but I understand what it is and why it is. But Igor is just so much better. And I think it's his lawyer mind and just like the way he lays everything out. Kind of like when I went to trainers training with TEP, which was great. And then went immediately to David Snyder's course where he's just a fucking scattered butterfly in the wind. And he's just like, I was like, no. So just, I don't know, side note, like Igor is a great teacher.
Yeah. There's a balance between like intuitive, metaphorical.
And these people aren't necessarily scattered. They're just, they don't have the, like the zazz that he has. They're like, he comes at it from such a different place. But along those lines, and kind of, I guess, along the lines of everything we've been talking about and everything we do talk about, and this, I know you'll be able to find a presupposition of NLP that says this as well. It says symptoms are unsuccessful attempts by the mind body to heal itself. Symptoms are the unsuccessful attempts by the mind body to heal itself. And then to continue on with that, our job is to create a suitable context in which we can encourage the symptoms to be successful.
Totally. Yes.
Which is basically what
embraced. What did you say? Embrace to release. Yeah.
Is their version of like, okay, what is this? What's the symbol for the symptom? And then what would it like, or what's a symbol for the solution that it would like? Because it's not about me, it's about whatever this thing wants. And either you turn it into what it wants to be, or you mix it with what it wants to become. And that, it's just about creating the context where we can encourage the symptoms to become successful.
Well, it's the first part about it's an unsuccessful attempt. A symptom is an unsuccessful attempt to resolve by
the mind body to heal itself.
So when I think about why is it unsuccessful, often and possibly 100% of the time, it's because we are conflicted. There's another part. It's like I'm angry, but there's another part of me that I'm maybe not connected to right now. That's like, you shouldn't be angry. And that is and then it's like, no, fuck you. I will be angry. And then that conflict between the two parts of you that are warring is the problem. Right. And so getting yourself to embrace both the part of you that is angry and also the part of you that feels like you shouldn't be angry, embracing both of those and encouraging them, which is where a lot of the bioenergetic bottom up somatic stuff around like, I know you're not angry right now, but we're going to get you to be able to get angry, to let it out.
I forgot what I was going to say there, but it's like when you see somebody like even smoking is not the problem. Mm-hmm. Smoking is an unsuccessful attempt for you to do something else.
Totally.
Totally. Any of all the angels were devils, all devils or angels kind of thing. Everything is just like, that was a thing that worked once or did one good thing one time. Mm-hmm. And then whether it's your repressed emotions or whether it's your anger, something. And again, not to say that all diseases are all some poor little girl with leukemia. I'm sorry, but that's your unconscious mind's unsuccessful attempts to heal. So, there's a place where these things break down, I think.
Yeah.
But it's a nice framework.
Yeah.
Right?
I think with the physiological stuff, I always just think like that's a metaphor, because when you think about cancer and then you think about like you got cancer because you were exposed to high levels of radiation. Was there any component of that is not strictly physiological?
Right.
Well, then it gets into metaphysical stuff about, well, why were you there in the first place, and what choices in your life led you to,
right.
But that it all has to be pretend. At that point, you have to just go, listen, because this is useful.
I think I talked about this once with you or the thing. It's like I'm on a first date, and I usually end up sticking my foot in their mouth. But she's nice enough.
I've heard so many of these date stories from you of just like, I went on another date.
She's nice enough, and like she's saying these things, and like, because all disease is psychosomatic. And I was like, ugh. I was like, yeah, well, yes, and she's like, what? And I go, I know, I'm just gonna hang on, let me pull the pin on this. And there you go. Drop that in the fucking dinner. How do you explain that to the little girl with leukemia who just died yesterday, 6 years old? What? Well, I mean, are you going to tell her?
Your dirty talk could use some work.
You just had bad thoughts, honey. Sorry. So you were just angry, and you just didn't have good thoughts.
You can't help yourself.
But I just can't, you can't say that. I just can't have, I can't let you think that in my presence. Like, it's like, don't you see where that goes to? You're telling this little girl she died because she's had bad thoughts. Yes, on a major part, I don't even know, more than half, a large percentage you could say is psychosomatic, whatever. And when miracles happen and things happen, people resolve things. And, oh my God, yeah, my problem just went away, and now I feel better and whatever. But
that phrase, I can't let you think that in my presence, is like, that encapsulates one of the things I love about you so much, Morgan. Like, I am not like that. I'm like, oh, you believe something completely ridiculous and crazy? You go right ahead. But like, you're just like,
I didn't say don't believe it. I was just like, what if you go farther down that road?
I just like watching you have those conversations from a distance.
Yeah,
like, I'm just gonna watch. Oh, look at that!
Hang on.
That's right. That's exactly it. And hearing about them afterwards.
But that's the thing. It's like, it gives a good thing a bad name. Like, emotions are important.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Feel your emotions, because that's what I'm saying. It's like talking about quantum bullshit.
Yeah.
Fucking, like, quantum physics is good. Psychology is good.
Yeah.
Some aspect of metaphors that connect the two are good. But when you start just fucking pulling woo out of your ass,
the issue is, we've talked about this before. There's a lack of tolerance for nuance in the world today. And some of these complex ideas, they necessitate discussion about nuance. You have to be like, well, it's true and it's not true, and we need to be able to discuss that, and it can't be just one or the other.
Yeah, because I didn't say no, it doesn't. Right. I said all of it isn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's really the place where nuance is gone when all is there.
You know, one of the things I would love to talk to you about sometime is, I know I've mentioned him before, but I've never been like, I really want to be able to discuss Ken Wilber with you. Ken Wilber's a philosopher.
I think you sent me that stuff. Yeah.
There's a couple of places I could give you to start, but he has this, like, his attempt to kind of create an all models for everything, like a theory of everything for philosophy and spirituality and psychology. And it feels like the extent to which I understand it, it feels like it covers all of these bases, that he's like, things are possible. It's possible to be both psychosomatic and entirely physical at the same time. And he explains how this works. It's really interesting stuff. And I know there's a lot of people in the NLP world who overlap with Wilber's stuff. There's actually a book called Integral NLP that is meshing Wilber's model and NLP. He has a book called Integrative Psychology, which is really awesome. But I find a couple of his audio programs that I could recommend to you are there's one called Cosmic Consciousness, that he kind of goes through all the basics of cosmic with a K, I believe.
Yeah, see, I have
where he goes through all of his all levels, all quadrants, and all this kind of stuff, and different lines of intelligence that develop, and it's super fascinating. I really like his stuff. I think you dig it.
Cool. All right, man. Well, we did pretty good. You got anything else going on here?
Did you see that they used AI to write new Nirvana songs?
No.
And record?
But like, what, who even cares about anything when there's AI? Like, whatever. Okay.
The future is so fucking weird.
Yeah. And like, I still can't get over. I just rewatched the deep fake that South Park made.
Oh, it would take the South Park dudes to be able to actually do something creative and topical and funny with the deepfake technology. Like, I'm sure that as soon as they saw deepfakes, they were like, "Oh my God, we got to start making this."
Well, it's like you don't even need actors in it. It's like,
right.
It looks like Donald Trump.
The Michael Caine one.
Oh yeah. Well, we could just get an actor who sounds like Michael Caine, which I don't.
But there would be subtle differences.
Yeah.
That you could no human could
watch
tell.
with your ears. I tried watching with my ears. I was no better than a blind person.
That is one of the best things I've seen on the internet in a long time.
Yeah. So,
and then the Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh yeah, dialysis.
Dialysis for two.
So good.
Oh, so
all
good.
Right.
All right, man. Well,
or they got to finally.
Peace, love, and NLP, everybody.
Yeah, whatever. What he said. All right, everybody. Have a good one.
See ya.